Welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast number 779. In the Software Process and Measurement Cast number 779, we wrestle with the question, when can prioritization be micromanagement? When prioritization involves overly detailed or excessive control over how someone accomplishes their tasks, or when it impedes an employee's ability to make their own decisions, it becomes micromanagement. Let's explore and look for a path to healing. We also have a visit from Susan Parente and her Not A Scrumdamentalist column. Susan talks about her impending sabbatical and why taking a pause can be powerful. Prioritization Can Be Micromanagement by Thomas M. Cagley Jr., Megan E. Cagley. Prioritization is an integral part of work intake, but getting it right is more than just putting work in the proper order. Prioritization and work intake are intertwined with leadership. When prioritization involves overly detailed or excessive control over how someone accomplishes their task, or when it impedes an employee's ability to make their own decisions, it becomes micromanagement. This can occur when a manager not only assigns priorities, but also dictates precisely how each task should be carried out, closely monitors every step of the process, and frequently intervenes with minor details. When asked about whether prioritization could become micromanagement, Mikhail Gardner, Agile Best Self co-creator, stated, "Of course prioritization at the wrong level can be micromanagement. This kills innovation, restricts agency, and demotivates teams. Micromanagement and prioritization can have negative effects such as decreased morale and motivation. Employees may feel disempowered and demotivated, reduced creativity and problem solving. Micromanagement stifles employees' ability to come up with innovative solutions or adapt to changing circumstances. Wasted time and resources. Constant oversight and interference can lead to inefficiency and lack of productivity. Hinder personal growth. Employees may not have the opportunity to develop their skills and judgment if they are always directed in minute detail. Managers need to strike a balance between setting priorities and allowing employees autonomy to manage their work effectively. Effective leadership involves setting clear goals and priorities while also trusting and empowering your team to execute their tasks in their way. During one of our discussions on the topic, Jeremy Willits, co-author of Mastering Work Intake, suggested it all comes down to how the communication around prioritization takes place. When teams and people get their prioritization with a heaping helping of vision and strategy, prioritization feels like a collaborative conversation. If you find yourself asking, if a little prioritization is good, wouldn't more be better? You need to ask yourself if you're micromanaging. Stop prioritizing and take a page from L. David Marquet's Leadership is Language. We read Saturday, by the way. And schedule a pause to reevaluate the plan. Do you think the risks of letting the team manage the details of the priorities are too high? Agree on an initial plan and then use the daily scrum or stand-up, whatever phrase you use, to evaluate the plan and the risk to the team's success. There are several solutions to over-prioritization. I use both the ones we just mentioned to lower my level of angst and keep myself out of my team's hair. My family over the years has helped me see that I can be a bit controlling if I don't take measures. Everyone can fall into the over-prioritization trap depending on context. Everyone can also pause, reflect, and improve. Jeremy Willits and I are building a live cohort-based course for Agile coaches, Scrum Masters, product owners, project managers, program managers, and portfolio managers on taming work intake. The cohort will cover why work intake is the biggest challenge to teams and organizations today, Attendees will also learn what to do to solve this challenge. We've held workshops on this topic at conferences. We even have a book coming out in January on the topic. The cohort-based course will combine very short lectures, discussions, and exercises. It will provide space to learn and share with peers. We're using a survey, link in the show notes, to build a waitlist for the first cohort. Join the waitlist. Thoughts, comments, all welcome. Please feel free to reach out to us at spamcastinfo@gmail.com. We look forward to the conversation. Susan Parente, welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast.
Thank you. It's great to be here again, Tom. It's always a fun thing. I'm always like, oh, what are we going to talk about? I think everybody thinks we have it all planned out, but we do not. That's the brilliance of it.
Yeah, well, we get ideas, and then wherever our ideas take us, I think we do riff on them a little bit. Susan, you're doing something that I think is pretty cool, right? So I guess you might call it a sabbatical. You might call it just finding space. You're taking some time out of your summer and, learning something about you.
Yeah.
Why don't you start us off there?
Okay, great. Well, I actually got the idea from a colleague of mine who also does a podcast, and she had somebody on who was talking about taking a sabbatical, and I think she took 2 or 3 months. And I've always been thrilled by that, but I'm like, okay, let me start with like a month. Actually, it's going to be about a month and a half. And when I first told one of my colleagues, because he asked me about helping him with something, I was like, I'm not free in August. He goes, what do you mean? I go, I'm not available in August. He's like, all of August? I'm like, yes, all of August. And so here's the thing. There's a few things behind this. It's not just about, let me take a summer vacation. It's a little bit about that, because I really work a lot of hours. Like January through May, I was probably working about 90 hours a week. I was teaching 5 classes, and I was also doing a contract that I have 20 hours a week. And I'm also, what else was I doing? Other various projects. So I do teaching projects and consulting engagements and all those types of things. So when you add that all together, I was probably burning about 90 hours a week. So I'm thinking to myself, well, if I work for 5 months at 90 hours a week, I'm pretty sure I could buy myself a month of doing nothing, which I can't entirely do because one of my contracts requires I be there. But it's basically, other than mornings, Monday through Thursday, I will not do any other work. Now, will I be busy? Absolutely. I got lots of other stuff. The thing that I think is most important about it is, in order to get perspective, to think about strategy, what I want to do professionally, what I want to do in my life, I think you need space. Like, this is why people go on retreats. This is why people have sabbaticals. Like, you need to step away from the everyday to look at things in a different way. So that is my ultimate goal. And then the other thing that comes along with it, at least for myself, is having the boundaries. I'm not super great on boundaries. Like, it's a challenge for me. I always want to, somebody asks me for something. Okay, sure. Yeah. Like, I'm always like, I'm all in, I'm up for doing it. Which is that's a positive part of not having boundaries. The negative is that I can very easily get overcommitted and then frustrated.
Didn't you say something about 90 hours a week?
Something like that, yeah. And
that's even crazy. That's even crazy from my perspective. And I'm a good 80-hour a week guy.
I was actually seeking out a coach to help me, and they were like, I think you're literally at that point where you have to give something up. Like, you can't do that. I'm like, what do you mean I can't do that? Of course I can. I just got to I got to organize right. And he goes, no, you're as organized as you can be. He's like, I don't even know how you're doing that. And it was basically what 100 hours a week looks like is, you start work around 7, eat through lunch. Maybe you get a walk in if you can talk to somebody on the phone while you're walking, which I'm I commonly do. You work till about 5, you stop and make dinner, and then after dinner, then you go back to work and you work until you fall asleep with your hands on the keyboard and like you start typing like Z, 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 Z on the keyboard. That's that. And you do that 7 days a week. And the only difference at Saturday and Sunday is that you don't have meetings. And that's what 100 hours a week looks like. I mean, it is feasible, and I probably get about 7 hours of sleep a night, but I mean, it's rough. It's pretty rough, and it's not good for a relationship. Just as an FYI, like don't do that.
It's not good for your health.
It's probably not good for you. Now, the one positive about it is I wasn't doing the same thing for 100 hours. Like I was doing different things. So when you're teaching a class, you're doing consulting, like when you switch from one to the other, like I find that refreshing. Like it's not as wearing. If I was doing one activity for all those hours, it would be a lot worse. So anyway, but
I actually think you're rationalizing a bit there. Just a little bit.
The good news is I learned how to be super organized. And guess what I used? I used a Kanban board. I prioritized things. I mean, I literally was like, how do I get all this stuff done? I'm like, I got to prioritize. And I just got to like, bam, 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 do things in their order of priority. And that's it. Now, what that doesn't allow you to do is, one of my favorites is Stephen Covey, the things that are important but not urgent. So that's what brings me to the sabbatical, right? So I don't even get clarity on what is important and not urgent if all I'm doing is urgent. I don't even have time to think about what might be important and not urgent. One of the things is I have been writing a book for years, but I really haven't been doing anything with it for years. But that's one of those things that's important and not urgent. This is going to be an opportunity to kind of step away from that. I'm going to probably do a lot of like things around the house, my to-do list that I haven't gotten to. But it is going to, I think, also give me some perspective and give me some relief. This past weekend, I basically did nothing because I'm just like reaching the point of burnout. You know what I mean? And so that's not good. You can't basically just keep, like if you're in a car, you can't just keep your foot on the pedal and just feed it gas forever. Like eventually you gotta like step off the gas pedal and let the engine cool, So anyway, so I think it's really interesting. It's, people say like, well, if you own your own business, you can do that, but it's really hard to do if you work for somebody. I would say it might be harder when you own your own business because I have to say no to like a ton of people and kind of tick them off and potentially lose work. I did lose a little bit of work by saying no to something in August. I don't know. I think it'll be an interesting space. We'll have to talk after it and let you know what I got out of it. But I think just the act of clearing the space is something in and of itself, right? What it takes to hold that space. And to hold that space, create that space, gives me an opportunity for creativity that I don't have when there's just something always urgent in the.
So you're going to do this for a month-ish. Let's say you get to, and we'll just pick an arbitrary date, August 29th at 11:30 a.m. Let's say that's the end of your sabbatical. So let's project ourselves into the future to August 28th, 29th, 11:30 in the morning. What's different about Susan Parente?
I have a better sense of my purpose. I am prioritizing things that are important and not urgent. I'm energized about my work, my life. I'm happy. I'm joyous. I'm smiling instead of frowning and frustrated. How am I going to get it all done? So that would be nice. Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm loving life and knowing my purpose in the world. That would be good.
What stops you from going back afterwards?
Discipline. So it's an interesting thing. So creativity, I think you need space for creativity, but I think you need discipline to hold the space. It's a little bit odd in a way. if you just have creativity without discipline, you can't hold that space, or you fail to actually take action on these things. So I think there's a balance between creativity and discipline. I tend to default to discipline and organization, and then that the flip side of that is then not having that creativity. So like that's the challenge. And when I see people I know who are truly creative, some of them are like really not organized, and so they don't take a lot of action. They don't get a lot done. And so I think that we both, everybody needs that balance. And just for me, the thing I need to work on is making space for creativity, not taking action. I'm inclined to take lots of action, maybe too much action. And I think that when we're living our purpose, there's a little bit more being in the zone. And I think life can be a lot easier than we make it to be, is my opinion. I think that I'm often pushing the wet noodle uphill. And although it's impressive that I can do things in the face of inability to do them or impossibility, like that, somebody actually once said to me, I don't think no or not possible is in your vocabulary. And I think that's true. And I'm a great person for persevering, but I don't know that you need to climb every mountain just because it's there. Maybe I need to walk around some of them.
I think that's fair. During your time, what gets you to a point where you can then distinguish which mountains should be climbed versus which mountains should be circumnavigated?
For me, it's spiritual. For me, that's a religious plight, and it's not really germane to our normal topics, but I mean that's how it is for me. It's religious. It's I think I was born for a purpose. I think everybody was, but figuring that out it's not actually just inside of me creating that. I know I can create a lot of different things, but it's being silent and still and listening. When you're really busy, you can't be silent and still and listen. So.
Okay, and that's where I wanted to go to, the silent, still, and listen. You indicated before we went on the air that you have a list of things that you want to accomplish in this time frame. How much having that list, does that allow you the time to be quiet and reflective?
Well, I think some of it is like those things in my personal life become a little bit of like a beaver dam. I don't know if you know like the Kondomari method of like getting rid of clutter, getting rid of things. It's kind of interesting. She has a way of like,
oh yes, I do. Yeah.
If something has like, does it spark joy in you, whatever, that type of thing. My office is a complete mess right now. Most of it's not visible on video. So it's like below my shoulder level. But I think that yeah, yours is not nearly as bad as mine.
Oh, so you don't see on the other side of the desk. That's where I was trying to get you to. But yeah, no, I hear you, and I know it's debilitating to me.
And those on audio, just trust us that there's a reason we're on audio. There we go. That's why.
We have offices made for audio, exactly. Not for video.
Well, Tom's office has a beautiful display of books behind him, and mine has a closet with an open door. But below my shoulders, there's just a lot of mess. And I do think that clutter becomes like a beaver dam for creativity. So I think that when you clear those things out, and Marie Kondo is her name, she talks about this, when people actually use her method to clear things out, that they actually, something frees up in their life having nothing to do with that clutter, right? So like, let's say they're reorganizing their home because they're renovating it or whatever, like something will come out where they're like, I need to change my job. So there's nothing to do with their house, right? So there's something about that stuff, the things, that list around the home that keeps growing, that is unsettling. So I want to get some of that. I don't think I'll do everything that's on my list, but I think I need to achieve some of it to create the space for that creativity. because it weighs upon you.
No, I agree 100%. It's good to get those big rocks. And then the clutter around the big rocks. So, yeah, I have on my list that I want to accomplish this year to actually reorg the office, but it's starting to pile up again. I started. I just didn't get it all the way done, and then more stuff piles up. It breeds, I think, in the middle of the night. Just piles of paper, and again, maybe what you see in the video, basically, 4 foot above the floor. If you got down to the floor level, it's sort of like. Unfortunately, it's sort of like parts of Rome, right? It's the most gorgeous city, 3 foot and above, but there's some help that's needed 3 foot and below. So I'm still working on that. Susan, would you be into talking about what happens in September?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So yeah, technically it starts beginning of August and goes through mid-September, and the last week and a half I will actually be on vacation, which is also a tough thing to do. I teach at university level. So for those of you who don't know, if you take like university classes, like it's very hard for your teacher to take a vacation week. But I do have a great director, program chair who will allow me to take vacation. But I teach like January through December. The only time I have off is one week in August, and between like Christmas and New Year's kind of thing. So he's great, and he will give me like a week or two every year where he'll cover my class. And so I have taken him up on that offer. I've been teaching there for 13 years, and it wasn't until the last 4 years that I actually even took time. I used to just go on vacation and teach while I was on vacation. So not really a vacation.
Yeah, it sounds like what we used to call a busman's holiday, right? Jumping on the bus and riding the bus versus driving the bus. So, but in this case, it was a little both. So, Susan, it would be good to see how this affects you, and let's have a conversation about creating space and how that worked and whether or not it unlocked your creativity.
Great.
We'll do that not in September then. We'll wait until October to do that.
Okay, sounds good. So those of you listening, whenever that goes live, look for that, because it'll be a lot of fun.
Susan, how would people continue the conversation in a month and a half?
Or even before then? LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn. Susan Parente. I'm actually listed as being in the DC area. I'm sort of in between DC and the New York area, which they won't let you put more than one area. And you can also find me on email, Parente, Parente, at S as in Sam, the number 3 -TEC, TomEdwardCharlie.com.
Super. And I look forward to hearing how this all goes.
Thank you.
In Reread Saturday News, complete is the next chapter in Leadership as Language, the hidden power of what you say and what you don't. This concept suggests breaking goals into smaller chunks with pauses to think and replan between each. Another solution to over-prioritization in micromanagement? I think so. Links in the show notes to this week's installment and all previous weeks. Hey, a call to action. Jeremy Willits and I are building a live cohort-based course for Agile coaches, Scrum Masters, product owners, project managers, program managers, and portfolio managers on taming work intake. I would like to see if you'd be up for sharing it with folks who find it valuable. The cohort will cover why work intake is the biggest challenge to teams and organizations today. Attendees will also learn what to do to solve the challenge. We've held workshops on the topic at conferences. We have a book coming out in January on the topic. This cohort-based course will combine very short lectures, discussions, and exercises. It will provide space to learn and to share with peers. We're using the survey, link in the show notes, to build a waiting list for the first cohort. The Software Process and Measurement Cast number 780 will feature our interview with Billy Johnson. We will discuss her book, Mastering Business Analysis, Standard Practices, 7 Steps to the Next Level of Competency, which she co-authored with Kelly Burns. We will also talk about business analysis to power agile teams. If process improvement is a never-ending journey, why do so many people ask, are we there yet?